And if you get to know Travis, he's one of those guys, you have to be careful what you challenge him on. And I think someone went up to him saying, there's no way you're going to sell a tour for $5,000 online. And that's exactly probably what got him rocking and rolling on TourRadar and making it a go. Quite a few years later, we had a tour sale for close to $60,000 online through TourRadar. So he's definitely surpassed that challenge.
Welcome to the Tourpreneur Podcast. Travel industry veteran Shane Whaley will take you on a journey with fellow tourpreneurs, sharing their tips, ideas, insights, and success stories to inspire you to make your tour business the best it can be. And now, please welcome your host, Shane.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 15 of the Tourpreneur Podcast. Really excited to bring you a brand new series today. It's actually inspired by you, the many of you who wrote into me asking me questions such as, hey Shane, you talk about OTAs a lot on the show. What exactly is an OTA? Or, well, I know who TripAdvisor are. Who else is out there that I can work with? And the big one, hey, are they really worth 20%? Why should I pay commission to an OTA? What am I going to get for that? So I thought it would be really fun to actually pull back the curtain on some of the OTA businesses that are out there so we can learn together, because Tourpreneur is all about sharing knowledge, okay? And we're going to pull back the curtain today on a company called TourRadar. Now, they do specialize in multi-day bookings and tours. So even if you don't sell multi-days, I would urge you to continue with the episode today because you'll get a little understanding of how an OTA works. We talked to Christian Wolters, the managing director for North America. We chat with Brendan Roberts, who is the VP of Global Business Development. We also talked to Vanessa Subramaniam, who is the Customer Support Manager in North America. We chat to Iris Serbanescu, who is the Director of Partnerships. We chat with Patrick Burke, Head of Talent. We talk a lot about company core values and missions. And I also wanted to speak to a supplier. And I'll give TourRadar a lot of credit here. They didn't send me their champion customer. They said, well, you find a customer of TourRadar and interview them. So a big thank you to Dennis Basham of On The Go Tours, who stepped forward to tell us all what it's like to be a supplier and partner working with TourRadar. So there's a lot in this episode. I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, let me know, which OTA do you want to hear from next? And if you work for an OTA, do drop me a line and let me know if your company would be interested in being featured on the Tourpreneur Podcast. So without further ado, let's cross over to Christian Wolters. Christian has over 20 years of experience in sales, marketing, and business development. Prior to realizing adventure travel was his home, Christian had senior marketing and sales roles for well-known brands like Harley-Davidson, Honda, and Kawasaki. Eventually, he made the transition to the travel industry by working for the Intrepid Group. In 2015, Christian joined TourRadar and launched the North American office in Toronto with a team of over 35 employees. Somewhere in between all of this, Christian has taught tourism marketing at George Brown College, traveled to 60 countries, co-founded a thriving business called SoCo Distribution, and co-hosts Travel Tech TO. Welcome to Tourpreneur, Christian. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm doing really, really fine. Thank you.
Well, today we're here to learn all about TourRadar. And I was very lucky that I got to attend Arrival Berlin a couple of months ago. So I heard your founder and CEO tell the story of TourRadar, and it was the first time I'd heard it. So maybe for our listeners who aren't familiar with you, or for those of us that have heard the name but not quite sure, can you tell us a little bit more about how you have founded and what your purpose is as a business?
Absolutely. And I'll try to do it as much justice. Obviously, coming from Travis, it's from his personal experience, but I've definitely, enjoyed some of the time with him and got through on a lot of the stories with him. Generally, Travis was a young lad from Australia, and he made a trip down to Europe. And, he would describe himself as, at that time, as not very worldly. And when he did go overseas, it just opened his eyes. And he realized that touring and traveling in itself is a really good way to kind of open your eyes to the world and kind of change your whole way of thinking. And he wanted to kind of have that experience for new people as well. He's an engineer by education, but he's always dabbled in the online world. He started a company called Bugbitten, and it was a company that was kind of like a Facebook for travelers before there was a Facebook. It was a way for travelers, who were sharing film and probably at that time just started sharing digital files of photos to kind of, share the photos after the trips had ended. And he did this from 2003, but it didn't quite work out because companies like Facebook came around and, superseded everything that they had done. But there was a lot of learning there. And he took that learning, and what he found was that the opening that he saw was that there's a lot of great tour companies, but they weren't online. They weren't available either. They were only available either if you were on site at the location or maybe it's through a travel agent, but there was never a way to actually purchase a tour online. And if you get to know Travis, he's one of those guys, you have to be careful what you challenge him on. And I think someone went up to him saying, there's no way you're going to sell a tour for $5,000 online. And that's exactly probably what got him rocking and rolling on TourRadar and making it a go. And quite a few years later, we had a tour sale for close to $60,000 online through TourRadar. So he's definitely surpassed that challenge.
Wow, 60 grand for one tour?
Yeah, it was a river cruise tour, and that was one of the sort of our progress through the time was that Travis started off as a young guy, and we had a lot of youth brands on board. And then eventually around 2015, we started onboarding well-known brands like Trafalgar, which if you don't know that brand, of course, is more upscale. We started selling a lot more of those upscale type tours on our site. So fast forward from 2010, the company was founded. And throughout that time, we had a number of pivots throughout the way. One of the major ones before I came on board was the fact that we were lead gen. We were basically sending the leads to the operators themselves. It didn't quite work in that relationship. And as soon as we became the agent of record, it just transformed our company, and we were able to create a stronger relationship with the tour operators that we've onboarded, and we were able to drive them more customers. And that's kind of what's really worked for TourRadar.
Yeah, and it's a challenge. I think everyone acknowledges that with multi-day tours, it is a bigger ticket item. There's itineraries, there's accommodation. Like I was looking at your site last night, and I will confess, I am a huge fan of multi-day tours. So I really want to see you guys succeed in this space. Some of the best trips I have had personally, there was one I took to Scotland in 2013, which was a multi-day tour. And, phenomenal. I still look at those photos and talk about it. Great experience. But, it is a tougher sell online than just, hey, I'm going to go on a 3-hour walking tour of Montreal or wherever it may be. So who do you look for in terms of tourpreneurs? Or first of all, let me ask you the question. So let's say I'm a multi-day tour here in New England. Why should I work with TourRadar?
I think there's a lot of good reasons. It really comes down to, what the tour operator is looking for. And number one, I would say, is the fact that we are a marketing machine. We are on a performance marketing level. We're driving over 2 million visitors onto our site from all around the world. So if you're, a New England operator, I know a lot of operators and their first love is not so much necessarily the marketing. It's more about creating the tours, running the tours, making these incredible customer experiences. And by being on TourRadar, it becomes a very solid marketing channel for you. It gives you global exposure to a variety of different customers that potentially never would have seen you unless they were actually specifically searching for you, or they were physically on site or in town and saw that you operate tours in the area.
And the majority of your customers, so people booking multi-day tours on TourRadar, where are they coming from?
Yeah, so we're predominantly all English markets. So our number one market is the USA, followed by Australia, Canada, and the UK, and then the rest of the world. We have a strong customer base out of Europe. Our headquarters is based in Vienna. I'm based in the office in Toronto. We have an office in Brisbane, Australia as well. So those are our strong markets. The US is very interesting for us. I feel that traditional travel agents haven't quite penetrated the tour space as well as other markets like in Australia. And so it's left a big opening for online companies to sell and promote tours, specifically multi-day tours.
Sure. And I guess the next question I would have for you, so if I'm a consumer, so I trust TourRadar because I've met Travis, I've heard him, I know he's a genuine guy. But let's say, I'm looking at your site and the tour I want to do is in the Southwest, somewhere in Arizona, and it's $5,000. It's a lot of money to spend. How do you get across that you're trustworthy for the consumer? How do you reassure the consumer that you're going to be around?
We do it in a number of ways. First and foremost, we have our own review platform. So customers can come online and review a tour that they've taken. It doesn't have to have been booked directly through TourRadar, but it could have been taken directly with the operator or with another third-party resource. And that way, when the review is put down, you can quickly see with each tour how strong the reviews are, how recent they are. And it kind of breaks it down. It's not just, did I love my tour, but did you like your guide, your accommodation, your transportation, and food as well? We have a strong rating, about 5.54 rating on reviews.io. So that's something that we wanted to make sure there was third-party validation of the platform itself. And then the last sort of, customer ease side of thing, and this was a big one for me because prior to TourRadar, I was booking some small safari experiences myself in Nairobi in Kenya. And I remember wiring money to an operator I didn't know. And they turned out to be fantastic operators, and they were there waiting for me at the airport. But I did, spend about 48 hours wondering, wow, is there someone going to be waiting for me? And what TourRadar does is basically sort of like Airbnb. They hold the funds in trust, and then we only pay the operator once the tour departs. So it's kind of a customer ease of mind, so to speak.
So talk me through that again. The customer pays online, you take care of the cash, and then when that person is leaving on their tour on July 1st, that's when you pay. How does that work?
Right on departure. So we would take our commission, and the rest, the operator gets paid directly from that account. So that way, if the operator wasn't operating the tour for whatever reason, we could either refund the customer or direct them to another tour. And that's another nice thing, with our close to 1,600 tour operators that we have now, there are lots of other options that we can direct to customers should that befall them.
Sure. So let's go back to the scenario where, let's say I'm running multi-day tours in New England and I want to work with you guys. What's the process for tourpreneurs who are out there that want to work with TourRadar?
There's a number of ways. Going directly onto TourRadar.com, you can see there is a place for operators to apply. A lot of times we meet face-to-face at venues and different on-site events that are happening. We have a team of business development managers that help with the onboarding process. So what we'd like to do is meet the operator. If we can't meet them face-to-face, of course, we'll talk over the phone. We get to learn about your operation and what you offer. And then we begin the onboarding process from that point forward. Obviously, we do a couple of checks and all that to make sure that it's a credible operator. But the industry is, while there is a lot of operators out there, the industry is pretty small, and it's pretty easy to know if there's a really strong operator that we want onboarded.
Sure. No, absolutely. And I also read on your site that there's a screening process. So what kind of things are you looking for when, someone emails in, hey, I want to work with you? What are you looking for?
Definitely overall reputation. We look a little bit on the financial side of things as well, so that there's any sort of untrustworthy experiences that customers have had. We also look to see, in general, are you offering a product range that we're looking for currently? Because with our current operator base, we want to make sure that we're not just going crazy in one destination and onboarding tons and tons of operators, so that when you join the platform, you don't get any sales because the sales are just spread too thin. So we try to get critical mass in our customer bases per region, and we do analyze it very, very carefully. Another thing we kind of look at is, most recently we decided to build up our travel styles, and we're focused specifically in the last couple of months on safari. And the reason we did that is that we saw that there was tons of search activity from our core customers looking for safari type tours. So what we needed to do first was kind of clean up our platform and make sure that there was the correct content onboarded. So we had information about safari vehicles and the animals. Are they going to see the big five or not? All those type of small details that customers look for. We made sure we had that as ways for customers to search. And then we onboarded the tour operators that offer that type of product. And it's worked really, really well. We've seen, triple to quadruple the sales in that category because of that.
I guess the big question that tour operators out there listening to the show are probably asking is, what's the commission structure to work with TourRadar?
Typically, it's a 18% commission structure.
Hi, it's Shane here. After the interview, Christian informed me that he misspoke, and the commission starts at 20% at TourRadar. So ignore it when we talk about 18% in this and in following segments. Now back to the show.
We obviously have some different arrangements with some operators when it comes to marketing efforts. Sometimes we run co-op campaigns together, which there are some fees for that. But the main thing is there is no onboarding fee. So, there's no money out of pocket if we haven't made a sale yet. And we work together in that way. The other thing is critical for us is that we work specifically with the operator and handhold them through the initial part of the process to make sure their content is strong on our site, so that there's good images, good photos, good quality written content and descriptions on the tours. So that we make sure that you have an equal footing or an equal, you can basically compete with the other operators that we have on the platform.
And do you have a ranking system, an algorithm of some sort of who, because if I just look at, I was looking at the Southwest US because I want to take a trip there at some point. Is there an internal ranking system you use?
Yeah, we have an algorithm. It is kind of our secret sauce.
Sure.
And content is definitely a big part of that. Reviews are one that, as soon as we have a conversation with an operator, we say reviews, reviews, reviews. If you have fresh, good quality, unique content reviews, then things happen. When a customer is filtering through our site looking for a specific travel style, the tours with the best reviews pop up to the top amongst the other elements of the algorithm.
And is there an opportunity for tourpreneurs to give you more commission to rise up the ranking?
No, we like to be an unbiased platform. Like I said, the areas that can give you some extra eyeballs on your product is through a discussion around marketing and marketing efforts. But we don't like to have preferred relationships like in some other businesses where we will lean towards operators that give us more money. We want to make sure that when you're a customer coming onto the site, that we provide you or we expose the correct tours that will fit what you're looking for.
Great. I wanted to change tracks a little bit as we wrap up here. You're obviously managing director for North America. You're in the middle of recruiting. You've got 35 people there already in Toronto. What kind of qualities do you look for in a candidate, or what kind of person thrives if they want to come and join you guys at TourRadar?
I look for mini entrepreneurs, quite honestly, especially in the earlier days. I needed people that could actually do a multitude of different activities. So they'd come in for their job description, but I didn't want them twiddling their thumbs if they saw an opportunity or something that wasn't being completed, or there was just something that was missing that would be better for our customers and our operators. And those are the employees that have really thrived. They've thrived really well because they've actually seen all the opportunities and have now are managing people that are also hopefully seeing new opportunities. And that's really what's worked out the best for us. It's been pretty good. In the early days, when I was two people in Toronto, I had hired a marketing manager just after a couple of months, and it was tough because we were working out in the suburbs and industrial area. Not many people knew who TourRadar was and wanted to come, but now we're in a really good place. We just actually we're over 50 here in Toronto, about 250 worldwide. And it's nice because we're actually starting to get employees with solid backgrounds in the travel space and in the digital or online travel space, the Booking.coms and the Expedias of this world. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, the reason I asked that is we have a lot of people who listen to Tourpreneur who work for OTAs or travel tech companies and always got an eye on the next opportunity. And I commend you for that outlook because, I started my career really at Booking.com when we were just 40 people, believe it or not.
Wow.
And they were very much the same. As if you see a new opportunity, go, at that time you could go and speak to the COO. It's so important for their growth going back. And I also empathize with you. I opened up Booking on the West Coast in Canada before anybody knew who Booking was. And when you pick up the phone, you're like, I'm from Booking.com. And they're like, who? And when you get to that point where people know who you are right away, it's a nice feeling, isn't it?
Yeah. When finally you're known and those people are applying, the people that you were hoping would apply in the beginning, you're like, where were you 6 months or a year or 2 years ago?
Yeah.
When I could have really needed your help. But it's great to, it's good to see that transition. And, it's been a fantastic place for people to grow and experience, their activities here. It's also really cool because we attract travelers as well. Even if you're a developer, an accountant, it doesn't mean you have to be in sales to appreciate travel. And we have a really good FAM structure where we're offering close to $2,000 as a travel allowance to take any of our tours on the TourRadar platform. So it's pretty exciting for employees because they're really getting out there now.
That's very, very generous of you. And I know we're going to talk to Patrick Burke a little later on about the company values, etc., and we'll go into that then. And I'm really excited to find out more about TourRadar. We're speaking to a few more of your colleagues on this episode. So thank you very much for giving us some of your time today, Christian. And I would love it if you could come back on the show in the future. I really would love to know more about your journey in tours and travel and Kawasaki and Harley Davidson. I think it's really exciting.
Absolutely. I'd love to come back, and thanks for having me on board.
Want to connect with other tourpreneurs? Then join our Facebook group at tourpreneur.com/Facebook.
Welcome to Tourpreneur, Brendan.
Thanks very much. It's exciting to be here. Glad to be talking about the touring industry.
Absolutely. Very excited by what we're hearing at TourRadar. Now, I understand that you are involved primarily with the business development side, the supply side of what happens in TourRadar. So I wanted to take this in two strands, if I could. So first of all, for the tourpreneurs that are listening out there, how does the onboarding process look? Because this is something I get a lot from tour operators. Like, I want to work with company A, but the onboarding, they're not responsive or it's too much work. How does that look like for TourRadar?
Fantastic question. There's a number of channels that people can connect with TourRadar in order to onboard and have their tours listed and sold on TourRadar. The easiest and primary way that we see people connect with us is going to tourradar.com/operators. We have a application process there. There's some simple questions to get started. One of the things, obviously, we deal in multi-day tours only, so tours that are 3 days or longer. And there is some added complexity when you come to that sort of product, maybe compared to day tours and activities. But we try to make the initial process as streamlined as possible. That actually automatically creates your account and sends the request through. I have a team of 30 people globally. So that's in our offices from Vienna, our head office, also in Toronto in North America, and from our office in Australia, in Brisbane there. So there's 30 members of the team who are monitoring those applications, and we look at each application to make sure that it's fit for purpose, both that the operators are offering tours that our customers are looking for and that we can sell, but also that we feel that there's a value add that we can bring to that operator. The team look to assess those applications, and then we'll communicate directly with the operators to talk about the next steps. There's an automated contract process, and we have an extranet dashboard where we can help to load the tours for each of those operators and step them through the process to have them ready. The tours are looking good and they're ready to be sold online, and we can then go through a test booking process, any other training that's required, and have the tours live and selling on TourRadar. But that's just one of the channels. My team attends somewhere in the region of 30 international conferences. There's big conferences like ITB in Berlin, ITB Asia, the WTM circuit. So we're in Brazil at Latin America, obviously in London, and then a whole range of other conferences. We're at Arrival this year, where I think you were as well, Shane. And
yes.
And so having our team on the ground in our key destinations, it's actually really important to me and to the team that we're going to these destinations, meeting the operators where they are to get a proper sense of how they're operating, because tours operate in different ways in many different destinations around the world. So we do a lot of our own research based on keyword research. So looking at SEO volumes, what are our customers actually searching for? And then based on that, we'll actually proactively search for operators that are offering the tours in the destinations that are the travel styles that our customers are looking for. So there's a whole myriad of ways that the onboarding process starts. Sometimes we're coming to you, but of course a lot of operators come to us as more of them become aware of TourRadar.
And are you working with any of the reservation systems that are out there in terms of integrating with tour operators?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a range of reservation systems that we're connected to. That grows over time. We assess each reservation system based on the number of operators that we work with that are using those systems, but also whether those systems are built to provide a value add for the complexity of the multi-day product. Some reservation systems have come up being built specifically to deal with day tours or activities and might not provide rich enough content to explain just how a multi-day tour might work. So we have to assess all of those things, but there's at least half a dozen reservation platforms that we work with that have, a reasonable number of operators that we work with already who are using that system. And in that case, of course, we want to streamline that supply chain process and make life easier for our operators. So absolutely, we work with a lot of B2B platforms in that sense.
When your team, let's say they're making the outbound call, let's say they're calling here in New England because they want to work with my New England, multi-day tour, what would you say are some of the most common objections TourRadar receives from tour operators?
There's a range of them. Sometimes it might come down to something very simple around commissions. And we can talk to how we handle those objections. Other things, sometimes operators are worried that perhaps someone that's working online might actually be taking bookings that might have gone directly to them in the past. And that's a really common one. And it's interesting because that's something that I make sure that we monitor closely ourselves. Because if there ever comes a point where we're not bringing new customers into the touring industry, and that's a big part of what drives us and what we're passionate about, the potential of bringing people that don't know about tours into the touring market is far greater than the potential of maybe us getting some bookings that might have gone directly in the past. And for us to be seen as a good partner, we, of course, need to be bringing something to the table, not just replacing something that's already happening. And an interesting statistic that we monitor really closely is the search patterns of our customers. And depending on the tour operator that we work with, between 80% and 90% of all bookings that are actually made on TourRadar start with a generic search, which means someone's looking for Europe tours, Asia tours, Vietnam cycling tours, horse riding in Italy. They're not looking for an operator name. And so in that way, we know that we're bringing value and we're helping to bring to the customer's mind some of the operators' names. Something that I'm really proud of that we do at TourRadar is we showcase an operator's name on the website. We're about partnering and making sure that those brands have the ability to be surfaced. And I think one of the great things and why I always view what we do as a partnership is that because we show those operator names, we get this question all the time is, at TourRadar, will you be getting bookings that we might have got directly in the past? Maybe a very small percentage. But the flip side also applies. We're a global company. We advertise to customers all over the world. We offer products all over the world, and we display the operator names on our website. And you can bet your bottom dollar there's a reasonable number of bookings that end up going directly because a customer actually found the brand and the operator on TourRadar. And so by entering into the agreement to work together, into that partnership, there's an acceptance on both sides that maybe there's a 10% that swings either way. But I'm always interested to hear from a lot of the operators that we work with that come to us and say, you know what, we've done an audit of all the bookings you've sent us. And in some cases, none, and in other cases, very few of them are customers that have been ours in the past. So you're bringing new customers to us. So I think there's a lot of fear about that sort of stuff, but sometimes the statistics don't add up. And that's why we work with operators and why we monitor it closely ourselves, because if we're not bringing a value add, then we're not doing our job properly.
And I like what you say about the discovery process because I went through that myself. So I'm thinking of a multi-day tour either to the southwest of the United States or Alaska. So I, this week was looking at your site because it's not like, oh yeah, I'm going to San Diego. I want to stay at a Hilton or a Starwood, right? I know the brand. I don't know the brands. I had my cup of tea last night and I spent quite a bit of time looking at your site, seeing what was out there, what was available. And, I'm one of these people that I don't particularly like camping because I'm scared of snakes and bears and stuff, right? And I like my luxury. I like a hot shower. So straight away, I liked how on your site I could filter to just give me the ones with a hotel or at least a cabin. Like, I don't want any of this camping stuff. And it was fun to go through and see all the different tours that were available in the Southwest and also up in Alaska. So yeah, these are companies that, and here's the thing. I mean, I understand the billboard effect. It's the same thing at booking.com. With hotels, but I couldn't tell you any of the tour operator names top of my head right now. Even though I work in this space, I was just reading the content, looking at the photos, definitely looking at the reviews, and like, yeah, how many days is that? Obviously the price. But yeah, it was a really good discovery for me because it's a world I'm not really very familiar with in terms of multi-day tours.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of hard work that goes into getting that right. It's interesting that you touched on regions, whether you're talking about the Southwest or whether you're talking about Alaska. One of the things that we kind of say when we're talking to potential operators that might want to look to work with us, and they're maybe comparing us against a whole range of other platforms, is, what are they bringing to the table, that functionality that you don't already have? And it's not just about having a website. In my mind, that doesn't really make you an OTA. We have some data we see for, depending on the age range, customers will engage with our website on 4 to 6 different channels. Now, that's not 4 to 6 different Google searches. They might come to us from a Google search, but they might also come to us via an email that they've subscribed to. And then they might also look on our Facebook page. And then they might watch a video from our YouTube page that our video team produces. They might then click one of our retargeting ads. 4 to 6 channels per booking. And so when you're looking for a good partner, a lot of small operators, rightly so, don't have the technology to be present in all of those channels. But this is what the customer interaction experience looks like online now. A lot of customers will still book in other ways, and that's fine. You need to partner to make sure that you're covering all of the different ways that a customer might try and find you. Yeah, so one of the examples of things that we do, besides being present in all those channels, is for every single tour, and TourRadar has 40,000 tours on the platform at the moment, and for every one of those tours, we database point every city that those tours visit. And that's what gives us the capability to do exactly what you were just talking about, is when a customer's looking for tours in the Southwest, rather than going, here's a list of all the tours that we run in North America, we're actually able to present to you a list of all of the tours that actually go to a geographical destination, because we know all the cities that tour is going to visit. And so we can actually provide a more personalized and more relevant experience for the customer. And that's what's going to help them to dig a little bit deeper, discover new brands. And you also touched on things like reviews and images. We actually share the data with our operators about what percentage conversion change they might see by getting an additional 20 photos on their tours. High quality, resolution's important. We share the data about how adding reviews might improve the conversion rate. These are the things that, when you're asking me what an operator should look for and why they should partner with TourRadar, this is why we have 30 account managers working across all these operators, is so we can provide that service to them to go, yeah, you know what you're amazing at? Running awesome tours, building these fantastic itineraries that, like you and I both say, we're in this industry. I've not pulled these together, and that's why we partner. We both bring different strengths to the table. So when you're looking for a distribution partner, look for someone that brings something to the table that you can't do yourself. And I think in that sense, that's how we bring new customers to the amazing tours that you're pulling together. And that's why I call it a partnership.
Yeah, I think you're right. And love the fact you're giving data to the tour operators. And that was actually my next question. So some of the successful tour operators you work with, what kind of things are they doing? So in terms of an optimal partnership with TourRadar, the ones who are crushing it, how are they working with you? And I ask this question so that if any of our listeners sign up to work with you, they'll also know, oh, this is what I need to do. Because it's not just press a button and done, right? It does take a lot of work on both sides. What have you seen as best practices that have been very successful?
There's a whole range of things, and you're absolutely right to say press a button and it's done is not the case. If it was that simple, then everyone would be doing it, right? So best case, there's 2 sides of the equation. One is the things that you can do for yourself or to set up within your company, but we've got to bring the tools to the table. And that means that you're using our reviews platform. Reviews are so important. We all know that. There's a whole range of data that we can bring to the table around it. I mean, I always say to people, just think about your own online experience. You mentioned booking.com earlier. If someone's going to go and book a hotel and the most recent review was written 3 years ago and was 4 stars, you're probably going to have second doubts whether you know that hotel or not. And so we sort of coach operators through that. And the ones that really kill it, they put some effort into their reviews. It doesn't mean that they're collecting thousands every month. But as a consumer myself, I might read half a dozen reviews. And so the operators that are getting half a dozen reviews on each of their tours every month are seeing a huge increase both in the visibility of their tours and the conversion rates. Those operators that focus on getting good quality images, not just their own images, but actually images from out on the road that perhaps their customers have taken, which is why our reviews platform allows the traveler to add images when they're creating their reviews, because people want to see actually what did someone see when they were on this tour. So that's really important. But there's some other nuances that we see that really help operators crush it. That's using the inclusion section. So multi-day touring, as I said before, is different to a day tour on activity of the complexity of the itineraries. So our itineraries are broken out day by day. The operators that do a really good job of explaining that experience and then explaining the inclusions, because so many operators work so hard to bring little nuggets of local knowledge or great experiences that you'd never find on your own. And this is why we're really passionate enthusiasts about touring, is that you get this opportunity to meet with an itinerary that's been pulled together by a local who's passionate about showing you their area, and they're going to take you on this trip. But if that doesn't bounce off the page, if that local knowledge doesn't bounce off the page in our inclusion section, whether it's the accommodation inclusions or the dining inclusions or through the images, or even through the use of video. And that's a whole nother topic altogether, the explosion in interaction with video, both in the inspiration and booking phase, but just for online trust. These are the things that operators that are doing really well are killing it, right? But there's another side to it as well. There's plenty of operators that lean into our marketing channels. Now, we have a large marketing team at TourRadar, and that's not just for growing TourRadar as a platform. We've got operator-focused marketers that any of our operators that want to go into a co-op campaign with us can actually access the knowledge of someone who is a Facebook specialist, who is a Google marketing specialist, specialist content creation teams, specialist designers, right? So these are the people that we put to work for each of our operators that come to this table and say, you know what, I want to try a different advertising push this month. What can you offer? Well, that's what we lay out in front of them, is that we've got a team of specialists, each one of them individually an expert in their field, that can pull together campaigns that we can run on social media and online, because that's what we specialize in. So there's plenty that an operator can do themselves with the tools that we provide. And then, as the business development team, we kind of act as that gateway to all of the other expertise that sits within the TourRadar team, be it from a marketing side or a technology side as well. You talked about reservation systems and integrations there. We actually do more bespoke or custom integrations. There's over 100 operators that we're connected to through bespoke channels, where we've done an individual integration with that team and actually provided our subject matter expertise around multi-day touring and how an XML or API or JSON feed, for anyone that wants to talk a little bit technically, we can provide that expertise into, well, we've looked at your feed and these are the things that we think you should add to it in order to help partners like us and your other partners do a better job of providing richer content to help customers move them down that sales funnel and really understand your products. So there's a lot that we offer to operators that look to work with us.
Yeah, and I just, as we wrap up here, I guess the question that I think tourpreneurs out there listening might be like, oof, 18% commission, that's quite high. What am I getting for that? What would your answer to that be, Brendan?
Well, my answer to it would be that you're getting access to all of those things that we were just talking about, whether it's the marketing expertise, people that are individual experts, whether it's technology assistance, whether it's the comfort and knowledge of knowing that there's a team of customer support experts who are online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, not just to support our customers as they come down the sales funnel and as they discover what tour might be perfect with them, but that team we have within that customer support team, we also have what we call our operator support team. And that's people who are online constantly to help when an operator is reviewing bookings that come through and they want some additional knowledge and assistance on how to convert a customer or how to use our system. There's people that are on hand to walk them through that, help them set up custom templates to streamline their process. And I think there's a bigger discussion to be had with many operators about truly understanding the acquisition cost of a customer. And when you can turn to us, we said before, if you're not present in 4 to 6 channels, or you probably need to be present in more than 6 online channels to really attract the online market, then you're not really doing online properly. And so the commission that we charge actually brings to the table all of these things that as a tour operator, you might not have the time or the expertise or either to do yourself. And that's why we see it as a partnership, because we're bringing something that other people can't do. There's some amazing statistics around the number of interactions that customers have with our customer support team before they book. And when I look at those statistics for customers that are in the 18 to 24 and the 25 to 34 year age groups, those interactions are dropping. Even in the last 3 years, the number of interactions has dropped significantly. And that means they're doing all of their research themselves online. And they're the future of travel, right? These are the people that are going to be spending the next 20, 30, 40 years traveling. And we need to be speaking to them and meeting them where they are online. And that's what we bring for that commission that you talk about, is that we can get you there. We can have your products there across the globe.
Brendan, I'm 44 next month. Next month, I'm still 43, right?
Hanging on to it. I think we're talking the same language here.
Yeah. And I don't want to call someone up, even though I'm not, the demographic you were just mentioning. Like, I just want to do everything online. I want to put my credit card in. I'm done. I move on. I don't want to be calling someone up. So
absolutely,
I think it's getting more and more. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. The link, if I heard you correctly, for people who want to find out more and want to apply is TourRadar.com/operators.
That's correct.
Brilliant. I'll also add that into the show notes for today's show that can be found at Tourpreneur.com/TourRadar. And I'll have all the links that we talked about today. Thank you very much for joining us.
Been my absolute pleasure.
And next up, we chat to Dennis Basham. Dennis works at On The Go Tours. And I was very keen to speak to a supplier, to a tour operator that works with OTA. And I have to give TourRadar a lot of credit. They didn't wheel someone out who's a champion user of theirs. They actually said to me, you go and pick a supplier. And the cool thing about their website is if you find a tour, you can actually scroll down and see the company name, as you'll hear on this episode. So I reached out to Dennis. He was kind enough to come on and give us some of his time and have a chat. Particularly shares with us why On The Go work with TourRadar, what their experience is like of working with TourRadar. I asked him the critical question about how do you justify the commission percentage or the commission that they pay for each booking. So I start off by asking Dennis how long he's been working with TourRadar.
So TourRadar, On The Go as a business, has been working with them for, shortly after they started, so probably 2 or 3 years now, I think. But I've worked with them previously in another touring company that I worked for before I joined On The Go. So personally myself, probably 3 years, I would say.
And was it when you joined On The Go, did you say, hey, we should be working with TourRadar, or were they already working with On The Go?
They were actually already working for TourRadar. And the interesting thing was I'd come from a business that was working with them but wasn't taking full advantage of what TourRadar could bring. So coming to On The Go Tours, they were very much already in bed with TourRadar and we're seeing the benefits of that.
And just to understand a little bit more about On The Go, I was looking at your website earlier on and I was looking at your partnership. I was actually, on a personal level, I've been researching some trips in Iceland and I saw you had a really cool 5-day trip there in Iceland. And I noticed on the TourRadar site, it was actually you guys, it was On The Go that were providing that tour. So, you're worldwide. Do you specialize in a particular area or, what's your area of expertise at On The Go?
So definitely, as you said, On The Go is worldwide, and the business has been going for, I think this is our 22nd year this year. And it started off as a Middle East expert, I guess. So Egypt, Turkey, Jordan, Israel kind of area was where the business started 20-odd years ago. And that has really, the last 20-odd years, or particularly the last 10, the number of destinations and where we offer has grown quite dramatically. So I guess internally and from a trade perspective and OTA perspective, we do get thought of for the Middle East as number one, which is great. So that's where it all started. But we're very strong now through pretty much Asia or Southeast Asia. We've grown into Europe now. We do a lot of Africa, South Africa, India. So pretty much global. We're pretty much covering, I guess, everywhere except Australia and New Zealand at the moment. So rest of world.
Brilliant. And what is it about TourRadar? Why do you enjoy working with them?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of smaller players that were kind of dabbling and trying to do, I guess, the online tour display previously. And to be honest, from my personal opinion, is when TourRadar came out, they were probably the first that were doing it on a much larger scale, were very willing to adapt to the way different partners could connect. So at the moment, On The Go Tours offers an XML feed. So they obviously have to adapt to that because some other partners might be on a more direct API feed or different channels. So from our point of view, they made it very easy to connect with them. Obviously had a little bit of technical work to do in the background, but from our side, they've always from day one made it very easy to work with them and display all of our content through their site. So that's the benefit for us, but it's also made it obviously appealing to keep that channel alive, and it's been growing really nicely over the last 2 years. So I guess what we found is, yes, we have to put a little bit of work in as well, but the TourRadar team put a lot of work in, and we've seen the benefits of that, particularly over the last 2 years.
How does the onboarding look for you? Is that all done via XML, or is there manual work, and how does that look?
Yeah, so our XML, I guess it might be a fairly limited one at the moment. So most of it is automatic, but then we have access to the back end of TourRadar where we can log in and amend things as we need or improve, I guess, our display. So a little bit of manual work, and it's just something that there's a couple of us within the business that we log in every other day and look at a few different destinations and just trying to improve how we're displayed. But most of it is coming through the XML. When we have sales, for example, all of that comes through the feed. As we add new destinations, there is a little bit of work to do to make sure we're ticking a few boxes to make sure that we're displayed correctly and making sure that we're displaying information correctly and the way it should be. So a little bit of manual work, but not a great deal.
And it's well kind of known within online travel that multi-day tours are more difficult to sell online than your 3-hour walking tour, for instance, because, it's multiple days, there's logistics, higher cost. So I'm really impressed with what TourRadar is doing. And like I say, I was researching them for a personal trip. What do you think are some of the challenges in selling multi-day tours via an OTA such as TourRadar for yourselves? What have you observed?
Yeah, I agree with that comment. And I think the interesting thing is the multi-day tours are obviously a bigger expense. So personally, I think it just comes back to people transacting a larger amount online. So that's probably one of the biggest hurdles to get over. But often the extended touring is part of a much bigger trip. So they could be doing a bit of there's obviously flights included for most people. There might be pre or post cruising or pre and post hotels. So I think the big hurdle is it's often part of a much larger itinerary. The touring component may only be a week or two of that, where clients could potentially be away for a month or two. So I think the challenge is, yes, how do these kind of sites become a one-stop shop for everyone that wants to do everything?
Yeah.
Maybe they don't need to do that. But from my point of view, often I know with our tours, it's not a fly, flop and drop kind of holiday. They're obviously doing a on-the-go tour, maybe through the Middle East or Asia, that is incorporating other parts. So I think that's the trick we've got to get around, is how do some of these sites offer additional services so they can capture the client's whole booking as opposed to just that touring part of it. So,
and I think also, you'll agree with me that the reviews are crucial, because when I was looking at the Icelandic tours earlier on, I could read some really glowing reviews of your tours up there in Iceland. And, as a consumer, that just makes me feel a lot more confident that this is a bona fide company. I'm not going to lose my cash and I'm going to have a really good tour. Did TourRadar work with you in terms of how to get more reviews, or is this something that they do their end with their customers?
Yeah, they've been very active in educating their clients as they return to jump on site and do a review, which we have seen the benefits of that. From our side, for most of last year, we also were communicating with clients who booked onto an on-the-go tour that had booked through TourRadar to say, please jump on and review our tour. So active from both sides. We are just working to make sure that our XML has a lot of those reviews feeding through as well. So it adds value to that. But yeah, I think that is one thing as well. Touch points of people before they actually book a holiday. Last stats I heard is that there's 49 touch points before people actually make that decision.
Wow.
So coming across websites like TourRadar and seeing the product that you want, consumers do need that confidence to go, okay, I'm booking with a website that's been around a bit longer than a night. I'm not going to lose my money. But definitely those reviews add a lot of benefit into securing the clients, but also just giving them confidence that they're booking with not only a reputable tour company, but also basically an online travel agent it's going to be around and is not going to run off with their money.
Yeah, and that's why I really take my hat off to TourRadar in that when you look at the site, and like I said earlier on, I identified one tour in Iceland and I could see it was provided by On The Go Tours. So if necessary, I could then do even more due diligence and look up On The Go tours to make sure that they're legitimate. And it's actually quite a risk for TourRadar if you think about it, because then I could book directly with you and they lose the booking.
Yes, that's correct.
I take my hat off to them because it gives credibility. And I guess what's going to happen here is that once someone makes a booking through TourRadar, have a really great trip, then there's that loyalty to TourRadar to book their next one through them.
That's right.
In the same way that I was very fortunate that back in, I think 2013, I booked a multi-day trip to Scotland. It was a great trip. And ever since then, I did all that online with a company called Rabbies. And, not through an OTA, but through them directly. And, for me, instantly the credibility was there. And then I'm not so nervous about booking online. I think that's what's going to happen. Already you're seeing people make their first bookings for a walking tour or skip the line ticket to the Empire State Building. And once the first one goes okay, then they're, more up for making more bookings, I think.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. I mean, guest companies like ourselves also do work with TourRadar to make sure that throughout the year, there's different times that they've got exclusive deals and offers. So it's part of our distribution plan, and they're obviously a very key partner for us. So it's another distribution channel for us that people may not have come across our own website, or we don't even look at them as a competitor. It's just an additional distribution for us that we pay to be part of, and we do make it obviously beneficial for their database or their clients that we are giving them throughout the years different deals and offers that they can promote on our behalf. So that does attract, loyalty and keeps people going back to the TourRadar website and then hopefully On The Go as well.
Sure. And in terms of them being a distribution channel, are you finding most of the bookings are coming through from Europe?
For us, a lot of the bookings are coming from, US, Canada and Australia are the three top ones for us. UK is growing quite nicely, as in Europe, and a scattering from other ports, New Zealand, kind of South Africa as well, in different areas. But majority for us is, US, Canada, and Australia are the big ones.
Interesting. Wow. So I guess the big elephant in the room, so if I'm a tour operator listening to the show and I'm wondering whether to work with TourRadar or not, we heard earlier on that the commission rate started around 20%, which is a big chunk of revenue or even from profits. What would you say to that tour operator who's out there today and who's like, 20%, that's a big amount to pay out?
Yeah, it does sound like it is a large amount, I guess, to be honest, at the end of the day. I guess it's weighing up what you would be paying a travel agent anyway. So there's a large chunk of that up to probably 15% or so to retail. And then really to reach all of those eyeballs, the amount of money that you need to spend on marketing, whether it's digital or traditional press, to reach the number of eyeballs that TourRadar are seeing daily and monthly on their website and who they've got through their database. So when you weigh it up, yes, it can be considered as an expensive channel, but if you're working in the retail space already and paying, travel agent commissions, it's not a huge leap to be able to get access to all of those people and eyeballs looking at your product.
Yeah, and there we go. We're hearing that here from the horse's mouth. It's from a company that's paying those commissions and getting the return. So this isn't company speak, and this is why we invited Dennis on today to share his viewpoint with us. Very last question for you. What's your favorite ever multi-day tour that you've been on?
Oh, my favorite. Well, probably one of the last ones I've done was just in January this year. I did a very Vietnam tour, which captured a lot of areas throughout Vietnam. It was about a 10-day, 11-day tour that took in a lot of the war history of the Vietnam War and certainly went to some very remote areas of Vietnam. So that's probably high on my list because it's just fairly recent. So.
Yeah. Fascinating. Well, Dennis, thank you very much for jumping on a call with us. I really, really appreciate it. And I would love to invite you back on the Tourpreneur show on a future edition, and maybe we can dig in a little bit into your story, because I know I was looking at your LinkedIn profile earlier on. You're very experienced in travel, and would love to share your journey with our listeners.
No, I would love to. Thank you so much.
Did you know every weekday Shane curates the most interesting news articles in tours and activities and sends them out in a snappy daily digest? Grab your copy of the Tourpreneur Daily Briefing at www.tourpreneur.com.
Next up on the show, we welcome Vanessa Subramaniam, who is the customer support manager at TourRadar. She is passionate about scaling global support teams and building exceptional team cultures. At TourRadar, she oversees the largest customer-facing team globally. Prior to TourRadar, Vanessa held various positions during high-growth phases at Point Travel and New Zealand-based Vend Software Limited. Welcome to Tourpreneur, Vanessa. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. I'm really curious to learn a little bit more from you how TourRadar supports its customers currently.
Yeah, absolutely. So our tagline is booking tours made easy. So we support our customers through a number of channels with 24/7 customer support. We provide support through phone, through email, and chat. So customers really have the choice of how they want to chat with us. And they have a whole group of travel experts at their disposal to help them out with their travel plans.
Sure. So what do you mean by travel experts? How are they trained? How are they selected? What are they offering the customers when they call in?
Yeah, great question. So travel expert isn't just a job title for us. We really do hire people who are experts in travel. We have former tour guides on our employee list. We have a lot of people who are expats working in the local offices. And it's basically a paid opportunity to talk about your joy of travel all the time. So I think that kind of passion for travel is what really comes through in our customer experience. Our training program is pretty comprehensive. We teach them all about the different kinds of tours, the travel styles that we offer, and how to make a solid recommendation for our customers so that they have all the information that they need to make a really informed decision.
So let's say I want to go on a tour to Alaska, for instance. I mean, to help our listeners who are tour operators understand the questions that customers are asking, what are the most common questions you get then from customers who are calling in?
Yeah, sure. So we have very savvy travelers who love kind of hearing our experiences in a destination. So a lot of times if they're going to Alaska, they'll ask us about the weather and the best time of year to go. They'll ask us about demographics of the group. They'll ask us which tour operator provides a certain kind of experience, whether it's luxury, whether it's a bit more off the beaten path, or both. So the most common question, I think, depends on how that customer, or I think maybe what would be more appropriate to say, the most common questions are related to where the customer is in their journey. And if they've just learned about Alaska, they'll ask us a certain set of questions. But if they've been looking at traveling Alaska and they've decided, hey, a tour is right for me, they'll have a whole bunch of questions about specific tours that we've presented on our website. We try to put all of the information up in as easy to find the information that you need, that you'd like to see. Any questions that they have are usually related around the experience that we would provide.
Booking a tour with you is very different from, say, booking a walking tour of Toronto or Montreal, right? That's a couple of hours. It might be 30, 40, 50 bucks. When I book a tour with you, it's going to be in four figures. It's over multiple days. There's accommodation involved. Do you tend to get questions from people who need convincing that they're not being ripped off and it's credible and they're scared to kind of hand over the credit card because of the amount in it and the logistics involved?
We attract really savvy travelers, and a lot of them have done their research, and TourRadar has an exceptional record online. So in terms of trust, a lot of the customers can do their own research, and they usually feel pretty confident coming to TourRadar. If an operator is listed on TourRadar, there's a certain level of reputability that we provide by hosting them on our platform. And as a result, they will ask us what our former travelers have said about a tour. But in terms of actually paying for the tour and that aspect of it, we get very few questions because of our reputation.
I just ask that because that's, one of the things we hear is the complexity of a tour, booking that online versus calling someone up. And then obviously, that there are large amounts of money, so that there are concerns around that. How long have you been at TourRadar for?
I've been here since August of last year.
What is it about working at TourRadar? So what's it like to be an employee there?
Yeah, it's really a fantastic environment of people who love to travel. And I think the day-to-day of coming into TourRadar and being able to get excited about where someone has just gone or where they are going is pretty fantastic. Every single employee at TourRadar has a budget on the website so that they can book tours themselves. And so we have a lot of experience booking tours and experiencing those different operators. So it's really nice. It's kind of a paid way of learning about travel all the time. And that's pretty exciting for me.
And what was the last multi-day tour that you enjoyed?
I did the Christmas market tour with Trafalgar back in December. It was fantastic. It was something that was always on my bucket list. And it was just the perfect opportunity for me to go over there and experience that firsthand.
Was that in Germany?
It was Germany, Switzerland, and Austria.
Oh, wow. So it was the whole 3 countries.
Yes, yeah. It was a fantastic way of getting exposure to all of those Christmas markets I've seen in all of the brochures and on Instagram, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, of course. Mm-hmm. What cities did you visit?
We started off in Vienna. We went over to Munich, and we ended out in Lucerne.
Lucerne, great. And were you able to pick the kind of accommodation? How did that all look?
Well, I think I took the approach kind of like a lot of our travelers. I knew the kind of accommodations that I wanted, which were 4 to 5 stars for this kind of trip. Mm-hmm. So I picked an operator, Trafalgar, that I knew to be very well reputed in terms of their accommodations, and they offer that sort of level of accommodation. So that's kind of what I got.
See, this is why I have to say I love multi-day tours. I would love to go. I love Germany anyway. And especially, I used to work at Get Your Guide, so I was in Berlin a lot. I saw the Christmas markets there, but I really want to go out and explore more of them. And to be honest with you, I don't really like driving that much. I find it stressful. And, dealing with trains and my German's not too bad, but, dealing with trains, getting the right ticket is always that little bit of fear, and I'm sure I don't speak for everybody here, but I love the fact that with a multi-day tour, someone else is worrying about that for me. Someone else is dealing with driving or whatever it may be, and they're dealing with the stress. And that's why I can just sit back and relax. I love it.
It really was a fantastic experience. My guide spoke English. He was from Australia, but he spoke fluent German. And every place we went to, he was able to communicate and help us along, give us a couple of the local hints about what you should be ordering, what you should be looking out for on the menu. It was such a delightful experience, and it really helped me. I continued my travels after the tour for another week, and I kind of took the learnings that I took from my tour guide to the subsequent Christmas markets, figuring out which foods to get. I did miss him bringing my bags to the hotel room, but different kinds of travel styles.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for joining us today and sharing a bit more about your department with all of our listeners, and we wish you all the very best.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are now joined by Iris Serbanescu, who is the Director of Partnerships at TourRadar. Prior to joining the company, she's worked as a tourism marketing agency as Manager of Trade Development, helping niche-focused inbound tourism businesses develop key trade partnerships through strategic, mutually beneficial B2B sales campaigns and product development. Her main focus was helping her portfolio of small tour operators, lodges, and destination clients succeed in gaining market share in the North American outbound travel market. Now at TourRadar, she is responsible for growing the company's portfolio globally. Welcome to Tourpreneur, Iris.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here, Shane.
So I'm really curious to learn partnerships at TourRadar. What are your goals? What are your ambitions? What is your department striving to do?
So I really see TourRadar as the conduit for helping our partners and the partners that we create strategic relationships with to reach their goals while helping us reach our goals. So that could be anything from destinations and tourism boards who want to see more passengers and increase passengers' stay in their destinations, to brands who are interested in reaching the travel vertical, and which we will also benefit from through seeing bookings and through being aligned with said brands, markets, and audiences. So it's really something new for TourRadar. We've been in the partnership space for a couple of years now, but I'm really looking forward to taking it to the next level and looking for partners that have a shared business goal with us and see us as a way to promote their destination to an audience that maybe they don't know how to target otherwise, or to brands that are interested in tapping into our audiences and our markets.
Sure. And are you able to give us an example of destinations and brands that currently work with you?
Absolutely. So we have, as one of our partners in Canada, the Alberta Tourism Board, Travel Alberta, the destination marketing organization. And I mean, my sister lives in Calgary, Alberta. They're near and dear to my heart because they're also Canadian. And they work with us to increase their market share of product within Canada. So people that are looking at Canada as an option to travel to, Alberta would like to position themselves as the key choice for travelers looking to come to Canada. We're in the middle of implementing a full funnel marketing campaign with them, driving awareness to some more off the beaten path parts of Alberta, because Banff, Jasper get so many tourists and see so much compression in their high season that they see TourRadar as a solution to help them with regional dispersal a little bit. So I'm really excited to be spearheading that with our marketing team.
When I look at travel, I mean, first of all, what a stunning website. I want to go now.
I know, right?
Yeah, just that opening photo. Wow. And they have a dog on the front. I'm sold. Are you on the website right now? Are you offering your tours on here right now?
No, actually, the way that we're working with Travel Alberta is that we're implementing marketing campaigns through social media, email marketing, contests, contest landing pages, obviously, articles in our online magazine, all of this through our channels to our audiences to encourage them to book trips to Alberta. So while Alberta isn't promoting TourRadar, we are actually promoting the destination. And these destinations need partners like us to actually convert bookings, because they obviously have their direct-to-consumer channels that they use to create awareness of certain products within the destination. But we're the partner that is almost a turnkey solution for them, because we get their marketing message out there, and then we also drive bookings and convert bookings and send them passengers and room nights.
So just so I can understand this, at TourRadar, you are basically working on that marketing side where you'll be saying something like, here are the 3 big fishing tours in Alberta, and using Instagram and social media channels to promote the destination and accompanying tours, or are you just promoting the destination?
We're doing all of the above. So we're promoting the destination, and then we're following that up with a call to action to say, book these tours through TourRadar if you'd like to go to that destination. And here are the ones we recommend for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason I asked that is for our tourpreneurs who are listening in, we were talking to Christian and Brendan earlier on about the 18% commission charge to sell tours through TourRadar, which, some tourpreneurs will say, oh, that's high. But we were trying to look at what they were getting for that 18%. So if you think about it, if I'm, running one of the tours in Alberta and I work with TourRadar, you're actually doing all this additional marketing that I probably don't have time for. I certainly don't have the money to burn on Google Ads. So that would be part of, why tourpreneurs should be working with TourRadar, that you offer this, what you call the full funnel marketing.
Exactly. So that's it. That's the benefit to tour operators that are based in the destinations where we're doing these campaigns. And that's actually the first step when we launch a marketing campaign with a destination, is to have the destination reach out to their suppliers and their tour operators. And we do the same with our suppliers and tour operators in that area, in that region, and say, listen, we're putting this amount of money, this budget behind promoting your destination and promoting your tours. So if you would like to see the benefit of being part of this campaign, list your tours on TourRadar.
And do you offer the tourist boards and the marketing organizations an opportunity to advertise on TourRadar.com itself? So I'm thinking banner ads and things like that. Is that something else that you offer?
That's something we're in the works looking at right now. It's not yet a product, but we're kind of doing everything we need to do behind the scenes to make that happen eventually. Yeah.
Yeah, because we were talking earlier on about where multi-day tours are so very different from booking a food tour in Montreal or a walking tour in New York, where so much is about discovery. And I was looking into a tour in the Southwest or in Alaska, and I don't know who the players are. I'm looking to be educated, and I guess by seeing a banner ad, I mean, to be fair, just looking at that Alberta website now, I'm like, I didn't know. I really don't know much about Banff and Alberta, but you see that image and I would probably click in and take a look at it.
Exactly. We're an image-driven industry. We're set on inspiring people and inspiring our audiences.
Sure. Which other partners are you working with?
Well, we actually have a signed letter of agreement from this destination, so I am allowed to disclose. We're working with Finland right now, which is the first Nordic country that we've had the pleasure of working with. Yeah.
Isn't that the happiest country to live in the world? I keep reading.
That's right. The happiest country in the world. I hope it rubs off on us over here in North America.
Fantastic. And how, I know you've just signed that, but how is that going to look in terms of a campaign for Finland?
It's going to be quite similar to Alberta. The only difference is that we're going to be sending our video and content creation team down to Finland over summer solstice so they can see the midnight sun.
That's a hard job for someone, right?
Right?
You've got to go to Finland.
I'm so sorry we're sending you to Finland.
Yeah.
That's right. So we're doing a week. They're going to be on a tour. They're going to be seeing the best of Finland, gathering raw footage, which we will then use in our campaign on social media, on our landing pages, on our online magazine to visually promote Finland. And that's why I say image is such an important part of what we do. And we're lucky enough to have an in-house video production and post-production team. So that's a big value add for our destination partners who sometimes need to enter into very complicated contracts with full service media agencies in order to get these services. And we're actually offering them as part of a more reasonably priced package, which also helps them get bookings at the end of all of it. So it really is a turnkey solution for destinations.
Sure. I'm impressed you have all that in-house.
I am too, to be honest. It is amazing.
That's not cheap. That's pretty expensive to have.
You know, we're making the investment in marketing because we see how important inspiration is in this vertical, in the travel industry. It's the most important.
And especially with multi-day tours, I think.
Definitely.
So let's make up a country. Let's call it Ostzealand or something, because I don't want to use a real country.
I love it.
Ostzealand, and I want to work with TourRadar. What would they do in terms of approaching you? How does that look?
That's a great question. So from the outset, it can work in either one of two ways. Either we approach the destination or the destination approaches us. And when we approach a destination, it's usually because we've targeted them as a key selling region for us, which means that we're already sending many passengers. We're seeing a high growth rate. And we're also seeing lots of keyword searches for this destination. So we know that it's about to get popular. So that's one way that we will approach a destination. And if a destination decides to approach us, which also happens, we have a really in-depth discovery session with them at the outset of proposing any sort of contract, because we don't have a standard package. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. Some destinations, Ostzealand, for example, might be interested in creating awareness of some of their more regional areas within the country that don't get a lot of tourism. And multi-day touring, by nature of what it is, it lends itself so well to regional dispersal. So people are spending maybe a couple of days flying after they've flown into a main hub or city. And then the tour is getting them out of the main cities and it's getting them exploring some of the more off the beaten path destinations. So a country like that has that kind of goal, we're the perfect partner for them. Another country might have the goal of growth and passenger numbers, and they don't care where these passengers are going, but they see how quickly TourRadar is growing, and they want to ride on the coattails of our success and partner together to help them reach their business goals as well.
And I have to say, I'm really impressed with the coverage you have in just looking at Finland. I can see why they want to work with you, because you have 190 tours there, or that go through there, that include Finland. And I just pulled that up as we're chatting here, and it's exciting seeing the Baltic experience. It starts, goes to Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Germany. Okay, it's a 15-day trip, but but how exciting! Like, I would love to, because when I've traveled in the past, primarily I've just flown into Helsinki, done some day tours, looked around, and that's great, especially with the US not having that much PTO, paid time off. Mm-hmm. But looking at the tours you have here, the Northern Explorer tour, just I keep saying this to the other people who are at TourRadar, that I love the fact that I just let everyone else deal with the driving, with transport, with language, etc., and I just sit back and enjoy the trip.
That's it. That's the experience that we want to give people. Getting off the beaten path without needing to do the research or do the work. And discovering that you don't know what you don't know. So you may have never heard of a destination before, but you're on this tour and you're seeing it and you never would have chosen it. But you're having the most incredible immersive experience thanks to being on a multi-day group tour. It just makes sense.
Absolutely. What was the last multi-day tour you took?
Ooh, what was that? I was in the Yukon, actually, Canada, keeping it local. So I did a trip over there for New Year's. This was back when I worked at the tourism marketing agency, and the Yukon was my client. Yeah. So did a tour with them, flew into Whitehorse, obviously got to see the Northern Lights, which were just magical. And then went up to their Southern Lakes district and got to spend a couple of nights in a cozy cabin in the middle of nowhere with no internet access.
No internet access. Wow. How did you cope?
It was anxiety inducing for the first few hours, and then I got over it.
Was your hand twitching where you'd normally be checking your social?
Oh, totally. It was horrible.
I think it's great. Brilliant. So to wrap up, Iris, if someone out there wants to, look into starting a campaign with you, how do they get in touch with you?
Oh, great question. Email me, iris@tourradar.com. And, we're a really, really hands-on team. We're small and we're nimble. And I think that's why destinations really appreciate working with us, because we come up with very customized, tailored solutions, and you're not working with an OTA giant. You're working with a smaller company that doesn't have 100 campaigns going on at the same time. So we can offer you that high level of service and help you reach your goals.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for giving us some of your valuable time today. It's been good to talk to you and learn a little bit more about the partnership side at TourRadar. It's
been great to chat with you too. Thanks so much, Shane.
Never miss an episode of the show. Subscribe at tourpreneur.com/subscribe.
Welcome to Tourpreneur. Patrick Burke, who is the head of talent at TourRadar, head of recruitment, bringing over 15 years of experience building recruitment teams across both the investment banking and high-tech sectors. He spent the first 12 years of his career hiring quantitative analysts and software engineers for investment banks and hedge funds on Wall Street prior to leading technical recruitment for Uber in New York City. He joined TourRadar in July 2017. Patrick, welcome to the show. I wanted to chat with you today because we've spoken to sales, to marketing, to partnerships, to customer service. And I know we have a lot of people who listen to Tourpreneur who currently work for an OTA, or they work for a large tour operator, or they work in travel tech. And they're curious about what happens at an OTA, which is why we have the Meet the OTA session. And I thought this was a good opportunity to find out a bit more about the values at TourRadar, a bit more about the people who thrive at TourRadar. So if any of our listeners who are thinking of making a new move can find out a bit more about TourRadar. So maybe we could kick off a little bit where you can share with us the company values.
Yeah, of course, I'd be happy to. So, when I think of the values of TourRadar, I guess a few things would come to mind. So, first and foremost, certainly, as you might expect, tech and product startup in our space, definitely very much focused on the customer. If we're not doing right by our customers and providing them the products that are just fantastic for them and helps them find these life-enriching tours, we won't be very successful. So certainly there, that's one area of focus. Another thing would be that we are going through pretty insane levels of growth right now. So just in the last 18 months or so, we've gone from 70 to almost 250 people. So people that are really able to handle the crazy growth that we're going through, then the dynamism that comes from that, that's a pretty critical one. I would say a requirement and certainly a value would be you have to enjoy travel. So you're going to have plenty of opportunity to travel here. We offer about €1,500 to each employee to use as they see fit. So we want them to experience our product, to know what it's like to be a customer. And we're also very much about being very open and honest and understanding with each other. So we believe in an environment where feedback is given very directly, but in a very kind way, so that everyone's always growing. That's how I would put it.
Sure. And I understand your company mantra, if you will, your vision is one team, one vision. How does that affect culture working at TourRadar?
It's a very good question. So one team, one culture. So at the end of the day, we need to be super collaborative. We have a lot of moving parts in a pretty dynamic and fast growing marketplace. So if we're not all clear on what the vision is for the company and who's responsible for what parts, it could get pretty chaotic. So here we use on the HR side for the company something called OKRs, or objectives and key results. So everyone is aware of the mission of the company, what the responsibility is for each group, and then oftentimes even down to, not for every group, but for several groups, even down to the individual level, everyone knows what they're working on, and people can depend on them to do their part, and they in turn can depend on others to do their part, because everything needs to work in unison for us to be successful as a marketplace.
Absolutely. I think you nailed it by talking about the chaotic culture of a startup. I was very fortunate to work at Booking.com when it was just 40 people.
Oh,
wow.
wow.
This is ancient history now, right? Way back. And, I moved over to Get Your Guide. And, I always found it difficult recruiting. Recruiting salespeople is always quite tricky in itself. But then B was saying, look, really painting that picture of this isn't an established company. Strategy can change quarterly. Goals can change. I used to find it was very, very tough to paint the accurate picture of that so people really understood what they were getting into. And then also in the recruitment process, really finding out what type of person is going to thrive in the environment, because there are a lot of us who, we need structure, we need consistency, we want the goals to be the same all year round. And I imagine that somewhere like TourRadar, you will come across some data and think, oh, what we've been doing up to now is wrong or not converting as well as this new way of working, and you have to communicate that to the team. So it takes a special kind of person, I think, to thrive at a startup, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
And what are some of the differences you've seen from, say, your role at Uber to TourRadar? How does that look for you?
Yeah, so first and foremost, certainly it's a difference in size. So I was at Uber during a pretty interesting period. So I joined maybe when we had about 4,000 or 5,000 employees, and not even 2 years later when I left, it was approaching 20,000. So when I joined, we were only 60 people. So for me, this was super cool to come in towards the more beginning of the life cycle of this company. So the impact you can have at a company of this size, turning into something big, and joining at this time is a bit bigger than, Uber was pretty well established and well on its way to being what it is now when I joined. But the impact you can have on a company at this stage is, on an individual level even, is pretty huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And why Vienna and why Toronto for your offices, may I ask?
Sure. Yeah, there's a good story as to why we're headquartered in Vienna. So originally, Travis and his brother Sean, who are the co-founders of the company, started the company up in London, bootstrapping it initially for the first year or so. And during that time, Travis had done one of these tours. He did a multi-day tour where he met a very lovely Austrian woman who is now his wife. And back then it was just the two of them. So they had the option of kind of doing this from wherever they'd like. So Travis wanted to move with and be with his current wife. So that's the story of how we ended up here. And you are correct in saying we do have these other offices. One is Toronto in Canada, of course, and then one in Brisbane, Australia. So for what we do, our main focus right now is the English-speaking world. And that means our main areas of business is kind of Australia, the UK, and North America.
And my last question, let's say I am somebody in sales who has experience with OTAs and tours and activities, and I have an offer from you and from, say, 2 other players in Europe. Why would you think I should accept the role at TourRadar?
Excellent question. Yeah, many reasons. I would say first and foremost, we feel like we are building something that's very special and also very needed within the industry, which is to be the global marketplace for multi-day touring. So there's just an excitement to doing something like that. The stage that we're at, there's some other startups and certain companies that are in this same area, but we feel like we are very close to turning this into a pretty incredible global brand. And secondly is the people. So in the Vienna office alone, where we have 150 people, we have over 50 different nationalities. Every single person that works here feels very connected to our mission, which is to connect people with truly life-enriching travel experiences. And we really screen very carefully for people that are collaborative, that are aligned with our mission, that can do well and enjoy an environment of hypergrowth and are just kind of generally positive and have a bias to action. So it's an exciting place to be right now, and the people are absolutely fantastic. It's the best place I've ever worked.
Fantastic. Well, Patrick, thanks for taking some time out of your busy schedule to join us today.
Very good. Thanks so much, Shane. It was a pleasure.
And a big thank you to everyone from TourRadar and to Dennis for joining us on today's show and taking time out of their busy days to share more about their business and their mission with us. I would love to hear your feedback on this format, this kind of episode. My contact details are all up at tourpreneur.com. You can find the links from today's show at tourpreneur.com/15. And let me know, which OTA do you want to hear from next? And I'll do my very best here at Tourpreneur to bring you their story. And don't forget, please help us out. If you enjoyed today's show and you know someone else out there who would also enjoy it, please do pass the pod. That's tourpreneur.com. Until next time, cheerio.
Thanks for listening to the Tourpreneur Podcast. Be sure to visit tourpreneur.com to join the conversation and access the show notes, including links to the resources mentioned on today's episode. This is Tourpreneur.